Wine. It's simply crushed and fermented grapes. The variations in the stories are what make it so fascinating.
As an AVA, I started just learning that it's such a diverse AVA. There's so many microclimates and terroir. I just felt like it was a good choice for Cabernet Sauvignon.
The climate, the soil, the amount of sun.
We do manage our canopies differently on the morning side of the vine versus the afternoon side of the vine, because in the afternoon it's so much warmer. We leave more leaves for more shading, whereas in the morning side of the vine we get more exposure because they're not exposed. That way they get the light without the intense heat.
There are so many varieties of grapes, and then different clones and different root stocks. And perhaps even more important than any of this is the story of the winery, the winemaker, and the people who love these wines, their philosophies, and the different ways that they bring their reverence to the grape.
Unless you own land. So at that point, he's like, well, that's it. Because they were kind of like, should we build a winery? Should we buy land? Like, we can only do one or the other. So they bought 40 acres on sort of
The estate vineyards for Kitski.
They're all here
Okay.
On this property for Kitski, and then we have a separate vineyard that's out. It's not in Candy Mountain AVA or Red Mountain. It's right across from the Red Mountain AVA in like Lower Yakima Valley.
Yeah, I grew up on a small farm about 20 miles from here, and met my wife in college, and her dad had this very successful large farm here. I thought I would be a banker or work for some agriculture company. I majored in ag econ.
Our goal at Crush Grape Chronicles is to explore and chronicle the grape, its many stories, and its journey from dirt to glass. Tell me a little bit about your story now, because I know we've spent a lot of time in Santa Barbara, and I know you spent some time there too.
Yeah.
And all your paths.
So I, obviously I grew up more Issaquah, Seattle area, because my parents were more sales and marketing focused.
Right.
But we would come out here every summer and stay with my grandparents and work the vineyards and work the bottling line. And I had zero interest in this business. I was like, this sucks. And why would I ever want to live in Eastern Washington? But, that's like 12-year-old talking. So, we would come every summer, and, I did enjoy the kind of social aspect of the business. And so, got into wine and tasty wine and all that stuff. But my true passion was animals, and I wanted to be a vet. And but my dad's like, well, you have to get a business degree no matter what. So went down to San Diego, got my business degree, and then wanted to get my pre-reqs for vet school. So I ended up at Santa Barbara because they have a good science program, and did all my science pre-reqs. And that's where I met my now husband. Well, actually, I met him in high school. And he was down in Santa Barbara at that time. So he got a job at a winery, Santa Barbara Winery. And so I was like, and he's like, well, they're looking for a tasting room manager position. So I was like, fine, and I needed a job. So did that for 2 years, went to school, and then I kind of got hooked on winemaking at that point because my husband was in production. And he's like, oh, we can go pick some second harvest Pinot for free and make it in the bathroom. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Little garagist,
Yeah. So we did 10 cases of Pinot Noir in 2003, and I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, take the grapes and you smash them and they turn into wine. And so then with my science prereqs, I was like, well, maybe this is something we do. So I was looking at Davis, and we knew we wanted to move up to Sonoma at some point. And so we ended up in Healdsburg and worked at Preston, and I love that place.
Yeah.
Grandpa Lou is still hanging around. It's pretty cool. So it was the two of us in the cellar with the winemaker, so I learned everything. And, along with that, bread baking and olive production.
Right, because they do all of that up there.
Everything.
It's so beautiful up there.
So, yeah, I learned a lot there. Biodynamics, organics, everything.
Yeah.
And that was when it was like, wow, it's not just about winemaking or owning a winery or selling the wine or the agriculture. It's about the entire culture of farming and taking from the land, and inputs become outputs, and that became really interesting to me. So and we knew, as much as we loved it down there, California is pricey. It's for two young kids starting out and wanting to start a winery. We were like, this is not going to happen. So my brother was the one that came down here, and he was working here full time at that point. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, you're making wine down here and you have a winery up here, and why don't you just move up to Washington? And I'm like, oh, Tri-Cities. And my husband's a California guy, so he was like, I do not want to live there. But eventually we moved up, and I didn't even have a job yet. I mean, they had an assistant winemaker, and
right.
So we created this gardening / food prep / hosting people position for ourselves, and did that for about a year. And then the assistant winemaker quit, and so my uncle offered me a job. I was like, yes.
There you go.
And that was, Preston was 8,000 cases. At that point at Hedges, we were making about 100,000 cases. So it was like a big, it was learning more about not just winemaking, but production management and how to fix things and being a mechanic. And,
right.
There are some people who get to just be winemakers, and that's really cool. But, the whole production management thing for me was really tough. But I got it. Mm-hmm. So that's how I ended up here.
Excellent.
And it's, there's not a lot to do out here. So my brother does all the stonework, and that's sort of his hobby. And I took up gardening and bread baking, and so
fermenting all things. Yeah.
Sauerkrauts and yogurts and kombuchas and everything. Excellent. So, and we're, through that, we're able to provide people, more of an experience out here. And